you. Good morning, friends. How are you all? Hello, hello. Good morning, Kristen. How are you? Driving while listening. Very good. Good morning, John. Hope you're doing all right today. Those were some great moon pictures that you posted on the harvest moon. Like, oh, those couple of those were really spectacular. Good morning, Donna. How are you? Good morning, everybody. Derek, my boy, good to see you. So glad you're here. Glad to hear you're healing well, for sure, for sure. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Cecile. Hope you're having a great day, too. Good morning, Yvette. Kristen. Hi, honey. Good. I'm glad you're doing well, Donna. Good, 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 good. Good morning, everyone. Glad to see folks are coming along here. We'll give it one more minute and then we will get going. I was like, what else is happening out there? How is everyone in your days and I pray you are well. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. All right, that's great. So glad you're here. We're going to get going here this morning, and glad you're a part. The calm stuff hit hard. Okay, I hope that's in a good way. I hope. All right. Well, you've probably been in the sleep bank. Hey, Fannie Faye Davis. Good morning. All right. Okay, gang's all here. All right, friends. Good morning. It is the 22nd day of September, and welcome to another 11:11. And I am glad you're here. If you're in our chat, your digital little faces are an encouragement to me. And I hope that there is goodness in your life and your days, and that and because today is the first day of fall. That's right, the season has changed. Oscar Wilde once said, he said, all at once, summer collapsed into fall. And I think there is no greater way to say that. I'm think of all the transitions of season, whether it is, spring to summer, summer to fall, fall to winter. There's something about summer to fall that is, I think, to me, the most powerful in some ways. It always seems like fall just kind of slips into winter. It just kind of gradually keeps getting colder. There's somehow spring. Yeah, there are the spring signs of spring that come forward, and they are always encouraging and life-giving, and the smell of earth and all the things that happen with that. And that's that. But that is always kind of just comes as kind of relief in a way that thank God winter's over. We're kind of done with that, but there's something of this transition of summer to fall that it not only is this ending time where we recognize these high days of summer are starting to close, but there's a beauty and an appreciation of it. And that, I think Wilde says it right, that summer collapses into fall. And that in this appreciation, I think that fall brings, there's this way that we maybe almost take stock a bit of all that that is to come. Some traditions call this the dying time, and that there's this way in which of what happens at end of life, or and if we want to go with that metaphor for a moment, that something at end of that we appreciate. It's one of the things that happens at end of life. I've spent a good amount of time working in hospice, working with people at end of life, and there's something about that season where people have this opportunity to simply stand back from their life for a minute. They just, instead of being in their life, like we're all in our lives, like largely, we're doing our things, we're washing the dishes, we're encountering the people of our day, we're embroiled in the news and the world and the views and the everything. But there's a way when people come to end of life that they encounter that they stop doing all those things. Those are not, and whether the dishes get done or are important, they lose it, and those things fall away. The daily living, and there's this moment of appreciation of the life that has been lived, this appreciation of what has come, and what was and what is, and that this ability to see their lives over the course of seasons and to see what has truly come to be the harvest time. John took some great pictures of the moon, and it is the harvest moon. We call it harvest because this is in ancient times that was actually what they were actually doing. That when it was time to harvest, they would work 24 hours, and they would work through the night because the light of the moon would illuminate the fields, and they would be able to work better. That it wasn't as hot. There was all sorts of advantages to working through the evening hours, and so the harvest moon isn't just this moon that tells us, oh, by the way, this is the stuff that time gets ripe, but it is the action of the actual action of the day, of what they were doing, of what the ancients were doing. We're actually in the act of harvesting, and I think we come, I think it's a gift for us as this first day of fall, to kind of come and like the Great Gatsby in F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel, as he, as only Fitzgerald can in the use of language, it is so beautiful, where he says, "Life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall." And I think there's so much wired into that, about how life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall. We imagine kids going back to school and things, that kind of re-engagement. But it's much deeper. It's much more holy. And what I think it really calls us to is this 120th Psalm kind of moment, where so there's this prayer to God for help, and this person whose light is fading, and who seem to be entering into the fall of life, or this hour, and these are all attributed to David, but there is this sense that where it says, "You have broken my strength mid-course. He has shortened my days." This idea that we're entering into our dying time, our ending time, and this small way is indicative. It touches our larger life too. Not to say we're all going to die this fall. It is to say, but to enter into these shortening days and this cooling air and these leaves. Camus says that autumn is a second spring where every leaf is a flower. And I like that, because there's a way in which in the fall that even the most ordinary of things begin to be admired. That the moment, our moment of little stepping back from our life for just a moment, for just to be able to assess the season, Maybe just assess what happened over the summer. Maybe just admire it and see it for what it is. That it holds on to this beauty and this wonder. So the very end, after all these machinations in the 120th Psalm, David says this. He says, long ago you laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you endure. They will wear out like a garment. You change them like clothes, and they pass away. But you are the same, and your years have no end. The children of your servants shall live secure, and their offspring shall be established in your presence. I love this notion of the heavens are the work of your hands, and they will perish, and they will endure. This is really an indication. This is kind of a nod to the changing of season. That there's this, that the beautiful raiment of fall that we are about to experience in all of its reds and golds and yellows will in fact be thrown off and turn brown and be on the floor in no time, and the very white and white and brown raiment of winter will be taken up. And then not long after that, the spectacular colors of beauty in which the earth will surround itself in the flowers of spring will come. This sense of you wear out like a garment. This is an indication to the seasons, friends. And he says that you'll change them, but you never change. When Peter is trying to speak to the Hebrew people in Jerusalem, and he writes the letter to the Hebrews, he begins in the first chapter by quoting these lines. He says, God is not changing with the seasons, but that it is simply the raiment that creation is putting on and taking off. But God endures forever. And that Christ is that God that has come into the world to be with you and I. That we are not separate or apart or broken from or broken away from God in any of the changing of the raiments of our being, or in the changing of the raiments of the being of creation. Because we find ourselves, whatever season, whether a season of lead or gold, of life or dying, whatever the season, God's presence and God's love is unchanging and in it with us. Just because the raiment changes does not mean that there is not something new again. Quite the opposite, as Peter was driving home to the Hebrews because the Hebrews is really like, again, he's talking to the highfalutin Jewish folks in Jerusalem. So he's making a highfalutin Jewish folk argument. So he's quoting all this scripture. He's proof texting all kinds of stuff. It's, if you want to read the most theological book of the Bible, it's the book of Hebrews. And it's that way because of this fact that he's trying to make this case of the unchanging God, of the God that has never changed, will not change, loves us unconditionally, always, in every place, has come into the world to be with us. Not to give us a set of standards to live into, not to only love us when we put on a particular raiment or a particular coat, that loves us when we are in the summer of life, but hates us in the winter of life, loves us when we like the spring flowers, point our faces towards God, but when we wither away in winter, does not love us. That's not the God that he's pointing out. He's pointing out the God that is ever and always present in working and efforting with our lives. In Anne of Green Gables, Anne runs outside in one of the books and sniffs and says, "I am so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers." Now, it's not quite October, but it is the beginning of spring or of fall. It is the beginning, and maybe it is the beginning of a spring, because like Gatsby says, life starts over again when when it gets crisp in the fall. Friends, as we come into this new season together, if there are things that are ready to start over again, even if you think you are in the September of your own life, even if you think it's just too late for me, even if you think there is nothing left, if the well is dry, there is no harvest, the blossom never turned to fruit, no matter what little story you were telling yourself, remember that the seasons may change. The raiment of your days may change. The garment which you put on may change. The garment that creation puts on, the garment, the way that the world treats us might change and transform and be different. But the God that spoke us into being, the God that breathes life into every blade of grass and every tree and every bird, who is the God we encounter when the wind touches our cheek or the sun shines upon our face, the whole of creation, when our hearts swell with love or our minds are blown with the wonder of being, that God has always loved us since the beginning and the pillars of time, and will love us through eternity into infinity. That God that walks with us and beside us and in front of us and behind us, that God is behind all of those changes. So whatever changes you are facing, know that the unchanging God is in them with you and has you in the palm of his hand. The great John Donne probably said it best. He says, "In heaven, it is always autumn." Friends, I hope in your moments and in your heaven on this day, as we step into this new season, that you find the heaven in this autumn. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. We will pick it up to next week or tomorrow on Thursday, the 23rd, with another 11:11. Peace and grace to you all.